Right, back live with you tonight on In Focus, and thanks for staying on. The South African Federation of Trade Unions has expressed concern at calls for former Eskom CEOs Brian Molefe and Matshela Koko to return to the utility. EFF leader Julius Malema says the pair is needed to rescue Eskom from a complete grid collapse. Saftu's General Secretary Zwelinzima Vavi joins us now to expand a little bit more on that. Dr. Vavi, good to have you, and thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you very much.
I suppose the good place to start is we are having this conversation because in the country there is this apprehension and this fear that at least in the next 2 weeks we are going to see a complete grid collapse and we are going to be in the dark. And so the call is all hands on deck, bring everyone back on, and those with talent to come and assist the country navigate this period. So for you as Saftu, do you believe in these purported information that is doing the rounds that in 2 weeks the country could see itself in a complete blackout?
Well, the issue is important to us, the working people who are again sitting right on the fire, where as a result of 15 years of load shedding, we're losing our jobs left, right, and center in the economy. Factories are closing down. Small, big, and macro enterprises stand no chance. And so you cannot tell us anything because these are our members who are losing their jobs in the economy. So that's the first point that we can make. But in our very considered view, anybody who says they bring anybody, including heavily compromised individuals who were leadership of Eskom at some point, who compromised themselves, who are now on trial, facing heavy allegations of corruption, of dishonesty, of fraud, of betraying workers and the poor, and of acting selfishly, of advancing their own interests at the expense of the common good of South Africa, in particular the common good of workers. The people who were the face of what went wrong in Eskom. You can't say that because of your levels of desperation, those people must come back to rescue a sinking ship. And morally, it is absolutely wrong for anybody to say so. We believe that the comrades who are making those calls are making a massive mistake. That's the first point. The second point,
before we get to the second point, it is believed, though, that, at least from what we're hearing yesterday, that we are being misled about these individuals because at least one of them, as far as it seems in terms of the arguments, has not been preferred any charges by the NPA. Yes, we do know one of those gentlemen had been charged and appeared in court at some point.
No, that's a problem for Gabatoli. People have very short memories in this country, and that's why they will keep on repeating the same mistakes over and over again. Are people not aware now that Brian Molefe have been arrested, together with a cortege of other senior executives, formerly of Transnet? Are they not aware that he's being accused of having contravened the PFMA and handed over lucrative contracts to the Guptas in the form of getting new age circulated at airports and everywhere, including in our private rooms? And that costed the state-owned enterprises over 900 million rands. Have people now forgotten that? Are they saying that the person who's accused of that must return to a very senior position in another state institution, which under his own leadership lost billions and billions of rands to fraud and tender corruption? And why are South Africans having such short memories? Are comrades now not aware that Matshela Koko stands accused with his wife and daughter, are on trial, that they are accused of having fraudulently and without following procedures favored a company where his own daughter was a shareholder to the tune of R1 billion, and that 300 and something million of that found its way to his wife's bank accounts. Then he became a beneficiary of that.
So the thinking is, let those charges continue until they are found to have. But in the meantime, they are arguing that, well, we need them now. Let them go in even without pay to go and fix the mess.
Here's the third point I wanted to make. I'm still going to come back to the point of the class again. Here's the third point, in 2005, we get convened by President Beki in Cape Town. And he tells us that he finds himself in an invidious position of having to release his deputy president, who was Jacob Zuma at the time, because the stuff that was coming out of the Shabi Sheikh trial indicated that, amongst others, that the deputy president would have benefited or was bribed for a tune of 500,000 rands, small amount when you look at the whole allegations of the arms deal. So the attitude we adopted at the time was, what is 500,000? We have a bigger crisis here of Mbeki's neoliberal approaches to economic development. We've lost 1 million jobs between 1996 and 1999. And to us, what was clearly a bigger crisis was the privatization, was neoliberalism, slim state, was massive job losses as a result of that program. So we said, no, this is a small matter, and let's look on the other side, even if there is a 500,000 bribe allegation. There was a second one. There was a second scandal. Somebody gets raped, and again we said, no, this is a honey trap, and it's not as important as the job losses that we're experiencing. We need a new direction. We need a second phase of radical transformation of our country. We must reverse this job losses, unemployment, inequalities, and the only person who can do this in our eyes was President Jacob Zuma. Look at the history. What then happened to the very labor movement that made that strategic mistake? Where is it now? What is the strength? It is in tatters. Who was at the center of dividing and collapsing its unity? The very same person that we said the 500,000 rands is a small matter. Look at the rest of what have happened to South Africa, and look at the reports that are coming out of the state capture that are pointing out the scale of looting in the economy under his leadership. I suspect that people are making the same mistake. No, this billion rands that Matshela Koko is supposed to have allowed his daughter to take through a unprocedural tender is a small matter. We have a load shedding yet. The country is collapsing. This 900 million rands of tender fraud and not following the PFMA is a small matter. There's a bigger issue yet. We are facing a total collapse of the country. You don't make that mistake. The people who are saying this are telling us this, that if they were to be in government one day, in their government, it will be okay for senior executives found with their hands in the cookie jar to be bailed out and to be found not guilty outside the court processes, so that they can be sent back to where they were looting, allegedly, and because the country is needing them. No, come on, we don't agree.
We'll come back to some of those issues, but I suppose at the heart of this is a look at the technical matrix of achievement in the 2016-2017 years when they seemingly were in power and where we are sitting today in 2023 in terms of money being spent on diesel, in terms of energy availability factor, in terms of how hard the plants were being run, in terms of maintenance that was conducted and so on and so forth. Those numbers looking particularly good around that particular period. But then the question becomes, is there no other talent in the country that is able to do that?
Exactly. In this 60 million population, with thousands of qualified electrical engineers, are you telling us that there are only 2 people capable of reversing the fortunes of Eskom today? No one else? There was no honest Jacob Barocha there, and many other CEOs formerly who were not preferred by, unfortunately, this government when it wanted to affirm a lawyer in the form of Andre de Ruyter to come in and drive a ship of engineers. Are there no other South Africans who are better qualified who can do the same job? Are you telling us that our country's fortunes depend on 2 people who are totally compromised by allegations of corruption hovering above their head? No, come on. People have to take us seriously. And we can't just be following anything that anybody says. We have to use our conscience. The point that I was making in another radio station, by the way, is that we agree totally with the policy that was advanced in the ANC conference that says, should you, including myself, should I be subjected to a court process facing serious allegations of corruption, of rape, of abuse of power, or anything like that, the next thing morally that I should do is to step aside and allow processes to clear my name. You can't say somebody who has already appeared in court, maybe for the first and the second time, even before they come for the third time court appearance, you make a call that no, these people are good people, we are in a crisis. They must now be allowed to come and run the very same institutions that they are being accused of having looted from.
The big issue then that we need to be talking about, again, if we are saying we need the talent, why is that talent not being given the opportunity to do so? Or is it the fact that Eskom is so much of a poison chalice with political interference and by the looks of it, and it has really not been denied that there are syndicates there that are running the show with a great deal of political connection, that there is no talent in South Africa that would want to touch that entity?
No, there is talent that exists in South Africa. The problem is, will anybody be willing to go in there and save us from load shedding after listening to that interview of Andre de Ruyter and or reading the book that he has published, even though, by the way, we have a big issue with him not going to report allegations of corruption at the police station. We have already laid charges against him, as you know. But the environment created by the speculations of corruption and interference at the highest level will make only the bravest of the brave to want to take the job that is currently vacant at Eskom, which goes back to the point, corruption, is nothing but a program of the elites to steal from the poorest of the poor in society. Nothing else. The corruption allegation facing the comrades is nothing. If they are found guilty, they will then, like all other corrupt elites, would have, at the direct expense of the economy, the jobs, the poorest of the poor, and the women, who are being targeted by the crooks as we speak, decided to act for themselves, me first, to hell with everybody else, and let the poor and the black people see up to the end as to how they get out of the hole that was dug by the successive regimes who refused to heed the call to invest in the ailing infrastructure of Eskom. That's how selfish corruption can be. Now imagine, if these allegations are proven true, and we worry that the ANC blocked an attempt to investigate the allegations that are being made in Parliament. Why? Why? Because anybody who is not guilty of corruption should say, bring it on. We want to see which minister would have told Andre Curator, for example, if that is true, that it is okay to allow comrades at the senior level to eat a little. What statement is that? What nonsense is that? Why are we not investigating that, such that before we ask anybody to take over the responsibility of saving ourselves from a possibility of the total collapse of the grid, we know that the hyenas that may be hovering around the carcass of Eskom are removed from the scene, and that the next executive director is given a chance without an external interference to steer the ship towards a direction where load shedding will be something of the past in the true sense. Why is that so difficult? To conduct a parliamentary investigation and or to call this guy at the most senior level and regulators to say, give us the evidence of what you are saying in your book or what you said in that interview with ENCA, we will act. Give him that assurance that you are a whistleblower, we will protect you, but if you are telling us the truth, let's find out, we will act. But if you are lying in order to create an impression that black people are corrupt in Eskom, then you must also face the music.
Tatu Vavi, appreciate your time. Let's leave it there for tonight. Thanks so much for coming on. Saftu General Secretary there, Zwelinzima Vavi.